In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Alright. So, what's love got to do with it? Very catchy, Abuna, thank you. So, this is a three-part series that we split up into these three topics. Today's decisions, tomorrow's consequences, that's today's topic, and then choosing Mr. or Mrs. Right, and then being Mr. or Mrs. Right. So I'll be giving the first one, and Megan is going to be giving the second and the third. So I think I got, or Megan got the short end of the stick, but that's all good. Okay, so to begin, I'd like to ask you a $1 million question. Why do you think the rate of divorce is so high? There are many reasons. What are some reasons?
Number one, communication.
Communication. Okay, so there's a lack of communication issues. Okay. Yes? Decisions are made too quickly. Absolutely. What else? Yeah.
Marriage is not based on God.
Marriage is not based on God. Definitely. What else? You must have other reasons. There must be other reasons. Is everybody just marrying the wrong person?
The reason behind the marriage.
The reason behind the marriage is not the right one? Okay. Is it just, yeah, go ahead. It's not God's will? Okay. Is it possible that sometimes, like, you can actually marry the right person, quote unquote, and then it still goes bad? Yes. So it's not a question of everybody's marrying the wrong person. Right. So, true or false? Quick show of hands. I can control who I fall in love with. Raise your hand if you think this is true. I can control who I fall in love with. Okay, false? Raise your hands for false. Okay, raise your hand if you are kind of neutral. Okay, raise your hand if you're sleeping. Thank you. I can control who I fall in love with. Well, according to my humble opinion and some research, the answer is true. I can control who I fall in love with. Okay, I'm just going to wait till everybody settles down. So those of you who just walked in, this is part one of the series about finding a life partner. Today's topic is today's decisions, tomorrow's consequences. So, I can control who I fall in love with? Absolutely. Okay, we're going to discuss that later on. Finding a life partner will make me feel complete. Raise your hand for true. Oppa. Okay, so I'm guessing you all disagree. Anybody uncertain?
Well, it depends on how you see it.
Uncertain? Okay.
It depends on how you see it.
Okay.
Yeah? It's like if you say that the partner is gonna have, like, you know, fulfill what you're lacking for, this is false.
Okay.
But if you're in the other way, you say that, like, you know, with the partner and God, you're doing, you know, the perfect combination. Yeah, this is true.
Okay.
It depends on how you see it.
So, behind the statement, what I was trying to say is, I feel incomplete. Something is missing. There is a void. I need to fill it by finding a partner. That's what the statement means. False? Okay. False. Physical attraction is not important. True or false? Who says true? Who says false? Can you imagine if you spent all your life? Okay, physical attraction is not everything, but it has some importance. Okay, we're going to discuss it later. The need to feel love is not a valid motivation for entering into a relationship? True. Raise your hand for true. Raise your hand for false. Raise your hand for not really sure. Raise your hand if the double negative confuses you. The need to feel loved is not a good reason for entering into a relationship. True. It's not a good enough reason. Okay, so, sorry, one more. Love knows no age. Allah. Love knows no age. True? Raise your hand. Don't be shy. Okay. Like, I can be 16 years old and be in love. Love knows no age. Definitely. So love knows no age. False? True? Not sure? Okay. A good point. Love knows no age. Just to get this out of the way, I don't know if I'm going to deal with it again, but I just wanted to throw it out there. Our concept of being in love varies as we get older, right? When you're like in elementary school, it's like, oh, he's so cute. Oh, she's pretty. No, and when you get older in high school, oh, this person makes me feel good. I feel good when they're around me. And then maybe when you get older in university, it's, okay, this person really understands me. I can relate to them. And then maybe this person, I don't know, they share my vision, they share my dream, they bring out the best in me. And then later on you think, this person would make a good parent to my children. So obviously what you look for in a person kind of, it changes as you get older. So false. Okay. So before we answer the question, what's love got to do with it, important to define what love is. Because there are tons of definitions out there available to us about what love is not. So agree or disagree. Love is not intense feeling of affection. Part of it, okay. Love is not strong admiration. Is love strong admiration? Some of you are going like, not quite. They're going like. Strong desire to share your life with that person. Does that kind of define love? Kind of? Okay, so what I'm going to say is, love is not only these things. So, question. Why is saying I love you such a big deal? Why is there like a big hype, you know, when a couple actually says the 3 big words? Why is it like a huge thing? Yes?
Because you want to mean it, and it's like, you don't want to just say it, but you want to take your feelings seriously.
Absolutely, you want it to be sincere. Right. Thank you. Absolutely. Why is there like a bit of fear or hesitation at actually saying the words? Stole my thought. Because it indicates a commitment. Okay, so that brings us to a better definition of what love is. It is the commitment. What's another word for commitment? Who said responsibility? Yeah, definitely. That's one way of looking at it. What's another word for commitment?
Contract.
A contract? I like... That's such a male thing to say. I heard a word on the women's side that I prefer. No offense, guys. Promise. I think it was a girl that said it, right? Yeah, a promise. Okay? So it's some sort of an engagement, like in French. Okay? You're promising something. Love is a verb. Love is sacrifice. And here's the big one. Love is a choice. Going back to the true or false question that we answered before, yes, you can choose who you fall in love with, and you can choose to continue to love that person or not. Like it or not, the butterflies are going to fly away. It's the truth. I mean, it comes and goes, but there are going to be like dry spells in your marriage, in your relationship. Okay? And the question is, are you going to choose to stick it out when, you know, maybe the passion has died a little bit, or you're going through some rough times? Love means supporting the other person's dreams, even if it means putting your own dreams on hold. It means accepting the other person's flaws. It means agreeing to disagree about some things. It means exercising restraint, self-control. It means fighting fair. There's so many difficult things, or so much work that's required to make a marriage work. So if you do not honor this commitment, and you're only basing yourself on the nice feelings that you had in the beginning, then it's not gonna survive. So distinction, love is not necessarily synonymous to being in love. Being in love means, you know, you have a strong attraction to the person's personality, their character. You love what they're about. You love their ideas. You love whatever about them. But that is not necessarily what love means. Love is the commitment. Love is toughing it out when times get tough. Perfect definition. We hear this a lot. We read this verse a lot. But stop and think about every single aspect. Like we could go on for hours just about this verse. Love suffers long. What's another word for suffers long? Endurance, patience, and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, not some things. All things. Believes all things. Hopes all things. Endures all things. Love never fails. I'm going to add one. I'm going to correct me if I'm being a heretic. Forgives all things. Yes?
Okay.
Thank God. Yes, you had a comment.
If a marriage become one, okay, if you apply this to one person, if you like, you know,
like it's one-sided?
It's not one-sided, like, you know, بالضبط, like, you're not gonna hate your arm, you know. Saying it's like you have always, if it's like hurt, you're gonna suffer the pain. You know, you just okay, pull it out and put it away for a few times until no, ما ينفعش. فلما واحد about marriage you become one person, that everything you have to solve the problems of life as one person. And this is, I think, the واحد بيقراها دلوقتي and put this idea of one unity, it takes another kind of
meaning. Yeah, thank you. That's a very nice analogy. So keeping in mind all these difficulties, like I don't want to make marriage look like it's a prison or anything, but keeping in mind that it is hard work, that is why the pre-dating period is so critical. By the way, enjoy being single while you can. Just because, you're never going to get those years back. You're never going to be sort of, for lack of a better word, free. Free, not free as in like free to do whatever you want, but free to explore, different things, try out different things, travel, work abroad, or different things like that. You don't have as much responsibilities when you're single. So don't take that period for granted, and don't wish that you could fast forward it and just, find the person and start your life. But sometimes we think that our life will start when we find that person. No, that's not necessarily true. Live your life, enjoy every period that God gave you, and God wants to teach you something at every phase of your life. He wants to develop something in you. He wants you to work on yourself and on different aspects of your life, your spiritual life, and other parts of it. So don't take it for granted, and don't just wish it would just be over. So there are 6 stages of emotional connection. Just for reference sake, I got it from a book called Every Young Woman's Battle. Raise your hand if you've read it. Okay. Raise your hand if you've heard about it. Okay, it's a really... Yeah? Okay. Awesome. So every young woman's battle, every young man's battle, every man's battle. There are different books in this series that are just fantastic. So they outline these stages of emotional connection to help us to have emotional boundaries. What are emotional boundaries? Why is it important, I should say, to have emotional boundaries when you are sort of in the observation phase? Yes?
Well, I don't know if it's answering the question, but then, something goes wrong, you cry about it, you scream, you get over it the next day. That's how I feel about the emotional boundaries. You cannot cry for maybe 3 days, but you cannot cry for 3 months.
Not more.
Okay? Everything takes its time for emotional healing, okay? And you try not to make it too long, because in my opinion, if it's too long, it's going to get to a depression. So you're going to cry for the day, or for the 3 days, but don't drag it on for months or something. Certain things need healing, somebody passed away, somebody, whatever it needs, but, don't, for me, that's why it's good to have men. Oh, stop crying.
That's one side of the emotional that I hadn't thought about. But that's not quite what I meant by emotional boundaries. What is a boundary? It's a limit, right? Something that you shouldn't cross. So we're not even talking about physical boundaries here. We're talking about emotional boundaries. You had your hand up before.
I was just going to say emotional boundaries can be seen as something inside of you, being that that's what emotions are, that isn't accessible to everyone, isn't something that I'll let everyone be able to put their finger on.
Absolutely. It's important to be careful how much of your heart that you share with someone that you're potentially considering, because they may or may not be the right person. Right? And you don't want to share too much, give too much of yourself, emotionally speaking, to a person if, it might not end up being the right person. So don't rush, opening up your heart to someone fully, because when you're emotional, when you have strong feelings for someone, your judgments can be clouded, and you might not be able to see that person for what they really are, and then end up having regret. And regret is the worst feeling in the world. Regret. And you don't want to regret sharing part of yourself with someone. So the book that I was reading, it outlines 6 stages of emotional connection. The first 4 are like logical progression, and the last 2, is kind of danger zone that we don't want to go to. So green light for attention and attraction, yellow light for affection and attachment, and red light for addictions and affairs. So green is the general observation phase. Yellow is the, narrow it down to one person, express the feelings, look at a future, and then red is danger zone. Note that the first 3 are before there's even any one-on-one dating. Okay, that comes much later. So the first phase is attention. Somebody captures your attention, captures your eye. Okay. This is often confused with love at first sight. Okay? It doesn't exist. I think we all know this is something that we hear a lot about in the movies, especially. You know, they laid their eyes on the person and it was magic and they ended up together and they lived happily ever after and had no problems. Okay?
Well, it's like attraction at first sight.
Yeah, what it really is somebody captured your eye for whatever reason. Okay? It could be physical, purely physical. It could be not. It could be you saw somebody doing something really nice and said, wow, and you suddenly let yourself, you know, get carried away a little bit. But it's natural for people to capture our attention, right? It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, provided that you are not fixating yourself on that one person based on something that you saw, because it's merely outward. Okay? You can still run. Just because somebody caught your eye, it doesn't mean you have to dwell on it. Okay? Let the Holy Spirit guide your feelings. We're not slaves to our emotions. Whatever you feel or think, bring it to God in prayer and say, God, if this is from you, then okay. If this is not from you, just take it out. And if you have to pray that prayer like 77 times 7 every day, pray it. So yeah, like I was saying, you are not a slave to your emotions. You can choose how much focus you put on one person. Holy Spirit's guidance, I already said that. Okay. Second phase is attraction. Now, attention turns into attraction when the person's personality you find attractive. So attraction is God-given at its best. We were designed to be attractive to people. It's not sinful to feel an attraction towards someone. Where it is sinful is where it becomes maybe impure in your thoughts, or a fixation, an obsession, like you're consumed, you can't think of anything else. Not healthy. Attraction is fine. It's okay. No action necessary. You do not have to act on your attraction. Clear? Things you have to consider. Is the timing right? In my life, in their life. Is the person available even? Is the person ready? Am I ready? We're going to discuss readiness a little bit later. Another slide. I'm saying later and I have like 15 minutes left. But we can do this. You can still run at this phase. Even if you feel strong attractions for someone, you are not a slave to your emotions. I see somebody like nodding furiously at the back. Thank you. It really makes me feel good. You are not a victim of your emotions. You can choose who you fall in love with. Very amazing verse. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman or man who fears the Lord, she or he shall be praised. Okay? So just a reminder that personality is what lasts. Beauty fades, character doesn't. In theory. No, in practice too. So, what happens if I'm attracted to the personality, but not so much, I don't find them like drop dead gorgeous? Should I close the door? Is it possible for physical attraction to grow? Yes, the more you get to know the beauty of a person's personality, the more attractive they become to you. I had something really intelligent to say, but it's gone now. Maybe it'll come back. Oh yeah, when I was reading Every Young Man's Battle, every guy in this room has to read that book. It talked about a gentleman who was engaged to a woman who was in love with her personality, but she was not super attractive. She was plain, you know, she wasn't like hideous to him, but she was kind of plain. And he found that when he compared her to other women, he found her less attractive. And so when he stopped comparing her looks to other women, he just focused on her and just blocked whatever images out of his mind, she became more attractive to him. So attraction is not something that it's either there or it's not. It's not true. That's a lie. It can grow and it can be nurtured. Now, affection. What is meant here by affection is not physical affection. It means showing interest. So the person caught your attention, and then you became attracted to their personality, and you feel like, okay, I want to show them that I'm interested. Now, let's not confuse showing interest with flirting. It's not the same thing. Is that cool? I think everybody can agree to that. You can show interest without being flirtatious. Now, it can be very dangerous showing interest if you're not careful. I think I already said why, because it can be interpreted as flirting. Oftentimes, the showing interest part, it can be rushed. And it's dangerous if there's no sincere prayer, if you're just kind of acting on your emotions and you're not giving God a chance to sanctify your emotions and guide you and give you signs. And if there's no spiritual guidance. If you're not talking about this with your father of confession, it is an indication that either you're not ready for this, or you don't want to seek God's guidance because maybe somewhere inside you, you know that this might not be the best person for you and you don't want to deal with having to face that. Yes?
I don't understand why you should tell your father and ask him what to do with your personal life.
Maybe
I'm sorry, it sounds
that's fine. It's a valid concern. Perhaps I mean, I'm not saying, Abuna, I'm looking at this person, what should I do? How should I talk to her? Should I call her? Should I not? That's not what I mean. I mean, Abuna, I feel like I'm ready to maybe start looking for someone, start looking for a partner. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Abuna knows you better than anyone. He knows your weaknesses. He knows your history. There's nothing wrong with just opening up a dialogue. Does that make sense? Kinda. Abuna, would you like to add anything? No? I hate when Abuna says that.
Sorry.
Can you just save me from this one?
You're right. It's just what it is.
Okay.
And once I heard something very nice that said that like God is like, let's say like I'm interested in a girl. This is like the daughter of Christ, you know. So before he can give her to me, he wants to make sure that I, as a son, is like ready to take care of her. I'm like spiritually ready for this, like to be the priest of the family, to do all that, you know. So that's why I think spiritual guidance is, like you said, important.
And spiritual guidance doesn't necessarily have to come from your father of confession, right? The church encourages us to have a spiritual guide who may or may not be your father of confession, right? Sometimes if there's more than one priest at your church, you'll find that one is your father of confession and the other is your spiritual guide for whatever reason. There's nothing wrong with that. Paul, did you want to say something? You had your hand up earlier.
A very quick kind of, not answer, but like a different way of looking at it is, it's like, say for example, you're going to run a marathon or you're going to go hike like a mountain. You're going to go to your family doctor who knows your medical history, knows everything you've had in the past. Say you're anemic or whatever, he'll tell you, well, you have to do this and this before you start, hiking a high mountain with low oxygen, and they know your medical history. You're going to ask them everything, right? Same thing for a marathon if you have heart disease or something like that. Your father in confession is that on the spiritual side. So marriages and like having a partner and all this is just as important spiritually as it is anything, whether it be socially or physically or anything, it's just as important spiritually. So when you talk to the person who's been your spiritual doctor in something that is going to affect you 150% spiritually. They can guide you knowing, like Tina was saying, your past, your needs, what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, and then they'll be able to guide you through the process. But if your father in profession, just an example out of nowhere, sees that you're the type of person, who is very, you've always fought or had a hard time with service or a certain thing, and he knows this girl or knows of this person or whatever, and he sees that your weaknesses are the same, and you won't be able to guide each other or strengthen each other. It's a bad example, but you can't take it to a certain thing. It's the same thing as the whole marathon thing. It's like your spiritual background.
Thank you. I was going to say the same thing. So before you consider showing interest in that person, ask yourself these very important questions. How well do I know this person? Have I seen them in different scenarios? I don't want to go too much into the next topic, which is actually what kind of person you should be looking for, but just things to think about. What are your motives? Do you just want somebody around because you're lonely? Are you trying to fill a void or an emptiness in your life? Is it going to make you feel good about yourself to have, a love interest? What are your motives? Do you just is it just the next thing to do on the list because you have, the diploma and the job, and is it just the next thing? Think about your parents. Would your parents approve of this person? It is an important question. There are a whole host of issues we could talk about with parental approval. But in general, your parents know your true self, right? We are ourselves at home. That's a good thing or a bad thing, but we are our true selves at home. And our parents see our weaknesses, maybe the weaknesses that nobody else sees. And they might have an opinion about whether that person is suited for us or not. The person's availability and readiness both ways. Am I ready? Are they ready? Etc. Okay, and are the signals that I want to send them, are they okay? Are they A-okay? Are they, what's the word I'm looking for? Appropriate. So the question is, how do you show interest in an appropriate way? Big question, right? How do you show interest without being provocative? Yes.
The kind of communication you're having, like if you're showing interest by asking
okay. Showing interest in
wanting to communicate with them and wanting to know something that's personal about them.
Okay. That's true. That's a good point. There are different ways that you can show somebody interest without being too provocative or without overstepping any lines. Word of affirmation, something positive. Compliment, not about how they look or what they're wearing or their new haircut. That's not really what we mean here. Something more meaningful. An act of service, lending a helping hand, helping them out with an assignment or I don't know what. Or a gift, and I don't mean an expensive gift. Something small, like I don't know. I was at a monastery and I got this cross for you, or I read a really good book and I wanted to get you a copy, or something meaningful like that, or quality time. This doesn't mean one-on-one time. It just means when you're in a group setting, you can have some meaningful conversation on the side, and that could be a way of showing somebody that you're interested. Is everyone okay with what I'm saying? Yeah, does it make sense? Yeah. Okay. So the next phase is attachment. So, khalas, you've decided that this is the person, you've sought the guidance, the parents are okay with it, everything seems to be going right. Engagement is around the corner, you can begin seeing each other, like it's approved dating or whatever you want to call it. You should still keep your eyes open at this phase because some things You can only find out about the person with time. Like, yes, we try to be real with each other, but there are things that you're not gonna get to know about a person until, you know them for maybe a couple of years. And there are things that you'll still find out after you get married. Because, it's the first time that you're actually living together, and oh my gosh, this person is super messy. Oh my god, he doesn't know how to do laundry. I'm just giving a silly example, but there are things that you cannot find out about a person until you actually live together. So you want to make sure that all the groundwork is done, and you know the major things, so that the things that you figure out after are, you can handle them. Watch for red flags. What do you think should be a red flag that would send you running the other direction? Yes? They're not Christian. Can I get an amen? Thank you. They're not Christian. Definite red flag. It's hard enough as it is to make a marriage work with someone who shares the exact same faith. You throw religion into there, and you throw perhaps cultural differences. So tough. Like, I would say borderline impossible. What else are some red flags? What should we stay away from?
Just هذا واحد مثلا red flag is I don't have a theory. I don't know if it's good or not. بس الواحد لما عنده emotional like you love someone ساعات the emotions hides اللي هو effective cognitive. Okay? That's why
Say that again? Okay, okay.
Effectively cognitive
Cognitive
okay? Donc, il faut à un certain moment donné, okay, quand ça commence à être un peu plus sérieux, okay, il faut éteindre les parties émotionnelles. Et ça prend un exercice pour faire ça. Il faut vraiment éteindre et faire partir la partie cognitive. Logical. Et c'est là qu'on va voir les red flags. Parce que des fois, ce qui arrive, c'est que quand les émotions sont là, on n'y passe tout. Okay, on a juste tendance à dire « Oh non, c'est rien ». Mais des fois, c'est là, justement là, qu'on peut voir vraiment ça flash et on ne les voit pas.
Yeah, absolutely. You know the expression love is blind? That's what it is. You love someone, so you are blinded to their flaws. And we all have flaws. There are flaws that are acceptable, but there are flaws that are not acceptable. So I'm going to name just a few.
Wait, can you clarify that? It's not acceptable to your standards, or it should not be acceptable?
Should not be acceptable. I should not, you should not engage in a serious relationship with this person if.
His name is Michael.
I was not going to say that. If they have, مثلا, an addiction. And by addiction, I don't necessarily just mean like substances. It could be some other addiction. Or seriously bad habits that are going to turn into addictions. If the person is possessive, extremely aggressive, disrespectful towards their family. This is a big one. If the person disrespects their family, they will disrespect you because you will become their family. It's the truth. Once khalas, you're married and you're kind of stuck together and you're comfortable and you don't have to win the person anymore, sometimes your true colors show. And if the person was disrespectful towards their parents or their siblings or other people in general, don't think that you will be the exception because you're the person that they love. You're deceiving yourself. So there's a wrong focus and there's a right focus. Oftentimes when you're talking about engagement and the wedding is around the corner and everything starts to come together, you focus on the wrong things. You focus on the romance, the going out, the eating out, the gifts, the lovey-dovey stuff, or the wedding plans or whatever, when the focus should be on what's our life going to be like? How are we gonna live our lives? Discuss things that matter. Now, here's something, if you forget everything that I said today, remember this. Discuss your expectations. The number one reason that marriages fall apart is due to failed expectations. You expected it to be something, and it wasn't. So you say, I didn't sign up for this, I'm out. That's what it is. Discuss expectations. Discuss marital roles. Right? Who's gonna be doing what? Discuss your finances. Discuss your family life. Discuss what your day-to-day life is going to be like. What are your views on what a good husband is or what a good wife is? You can still run.
Yeah. Can I say something about the "you can still run" part? I feel like sometimes, like for example, when I was getting engaged or got engaged and wanted to get married, like Abuna was he didn't want to give us a wedding date. Okay, he was very wise because the moment couples get engaged, the next step they want always is like, so when is the wedding date? The next day I'll do it. And he didn't want to give us the wedding date itself, and I was like, why? What's the big deal about the date? But he knows that as soon as you have a date, right away, like instead of taking that whole period to get to know each other, like you're not getting to know each other at all. All you're doing is like logistics, like we need a hall, we need a march, we need this car, no, this car's too big, this car's too small. Like the whole period of engagement is going to become wedding planning, and you actually won't get to know each other at all. And even before engagement, the same thing applies. So, and another thing I wanted to say about the fact that you can still run is that I feel like socially there's a lot of pressure on couples. Like if you have a humongous engagement, for example, and then in your engagement you find out that like I'm really starting to feel like this is not the right person for me, you're gonna feel a humongous social pressure that like, oh, we've already had an engagement and 500 people came to our engagement. How could we end it now? And how could we, So like everyone needs, like, don't let social pressures, get to you. Like remember that dating, first of all, is supposed to just be getting to know each other. And engagement is also supposed to be getting to know each other. There is nothing ritual, like there is no ritual in our church. Like there's nothing magical that happens in engagement. We pray our Father 3 times. And there's nothing sacramental in engagement. Like you're still 2 people, you're not 1 or not even like 1.5, nothing. You're still, like you're exactly like you are before you were engaged, and there's no difference at all, So actually, like engagement is only like you come in front of the congregation so that.
Is it a formality?
Yeah, in a way it's a formality, and it's in a way it's like to have respect for each other, to say that like in front of everyone we're not doing anything in the hiding. Like I'm committing myself to this person only to get to know them in this time, and she's committing herself to me, and that's the kind of thing it is. But it's not like anything sacramental at all.
Isn't that kind of a paradox? Because then you're telling you, but like it is better to not take into consideration or be afraid that society will do something, but yet I'm standing in front of society I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, you're right in a way, but at the same time, like I'm saying, if you do it like in a small setting, like if like some people get engaged, yeah, like you won't feel as pressured. Like if like the families get together, or extended families or whatever. Like, and a lot of us who got engaged and married didn't do that because our parents got like overly excited and we have to invite everybody. But I'm just telling you guys from our experience, like don't put that kind of pressure on yourselves. Like it's not necessary. If you have a little engagement, and the world will know that you're getting to know each other. But still, there's a reason why it's called engagement. And then you could still like say like, no, it wasn't the right thing, and that's it. Because it's much better to like be uncomfortable for a couple of months and have people look at you funny than like the rest of your life like regret it.
So the moral of the story is you can still run.
Yeah.
So I have 3 more slides. I know I'm a little bit over time. I'm going to rush through them. The zone that we don't want to go into is the red zone, the addiction and affairs. And by addiction, I think we all know what addiction means when you're addicted to the relationship aspect. Juggling, right? If you have multiple, it doesn't necessarily mean having multiple love interests at the same time. I think we all know that that's It's unacceptable. But it's also being addicted to the newness of relationships. Like if you skip out every time it gets boring and old before marriage, don't think that marriage is going to heal that. Marriage doesn't heal anything. It doesn't fix any problem that's already there. Marriage is not a band-aid. Okay, if anything, being addicted to newness in relationships could lead to unfaithfulness in the future. It's not just because you're settled down that old habits are going to die. Obviously, impurity, if there is physical relationships, I don't want to go too much into that. We all know what the boundaries are, I hope. If you're being consumed by the feelings for this person, if you're unable to function, if you can't concentrate on anything, you're like texting all night long and losing sleep, and your grades are dropping, or I don't know, you're all at different stages in your lives, but if you're completely consumed by your feelings for this person, you're definitely in the red zone. If it's taking over your friendships, you don't talk to your friends as much anymore, you don't spend time with your family, you're neglecting your responsibilities at home, red zone. Now, affair doesn't necessarily mean like adultery. It just means forbidden relationships, like with someone who's unavailable, somebody who's not Christian, etc. If they're sneaking around, definitely that's an indication that you're totally going the wrong way. If you're lying to your parents or your friends or whatever. Anyways, that's that. So, burning question. Am I ready? I heard somebody say, of course not. Did I miss something?
I think you're ready.
Well, yeah, I'm ready, but there's the analogy of the cake, okay? You need the right ingredients, not only the right ingredients, you need to put them in the right order, the right quantity, the right cooking time. If any of you are, familiar with baking at all, you know that it's like chemistry, right? One thing goes wrong, it's a chemical reaction, right? If one thing is not right, your cake is going to turn out disgusting. Okay, it's just not going to be a cake. You could have done everything right, but you took it out too soon, and then what happens to the cake? I don't know what that word is. It deflates or whatever. So, it's a very complex process, and it cannot be rushed. So the process is important. The time that you invest in it, the care you take in every step. God's blessing, is God's blessing part of these ingredients? So, two common scenarios that happen that are not the desirable scenario. All the ingredients are there, so you think, okay, well, what are the ingredients to be ready for a relationship? I finished school, I have a job, I'm financially stable, I'm mature, I think I know what I want in a person, I know what I want in life. Does it necessarily mean you are ready for a relationship? Not necessarily. Now, on the opposite spectrum, a whole bunch of ingredients are missing, but they say, oh, love is enough. And the sad part is that oftentimes when we're in love, or we think we're in love, we think that we are the exception. I know that most 20-year-olds or most 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds don't, they don't know what love is, but not us. You think you're the exception. And that's going back to the faculty cognitive that I was telling us about. Your judgment is clouded by all the strong emotions, and you have to have the right ingredients in the right order at the right time with the correct process. Like it's very complex. So now that we know how to carefully proceed, stay tuned. What should I look for in a partner besides a really great CV? Questions, comments, concerns, complaints? Yes.
Well, I always thought that it's important to know God.
Sorry guys, there's a comment that's being shared. Let's just listen up.
I always found it important that it's important to know God's love through, let's say, the reading of the Bible and the Word of God and so forth, before you actually know friendship, love. It's true love is God's love. And if you're sharing it with somebody, it doesn't matter whoever you're talking about or relationship, that's I think if you have love, then, you know, there's a lot of, I hate to say girls, but there's a lot of